All right, so we're talking on classes and objects this week and a little bit around classes and objects, right? Have you heard of classes and objects before in programming?
Yes, but I don't really understand it.
Okay, no problem. Then there's something called OOP in programming. OOP. Right. We also kind of classes and objects kind of talks about OOP, and you get like a number of stuff around it, right? But before we go into OOP, let's talk a bit about classes and objects. So classes are blueprints for creating objects, while objects are instances of a class, right? So what you can use as an example is um, an architectural diagram. So you have like a diagram. Give me a second, let me see. So you have like a diagram that says, this is what this house would look like this. Let me look for a simple one. Or exactly something like this. This is what this plane would look like. This is what this house would look like. This was, let me use this. So a diagram that says this is what this house will look like, a blueprint house plan, right? So we have the front door here, we have the hall, kitchen, bedroom, living area, garage, and all of this stuff. Now, from this blueprint or from this architectural diagram, you can build a house, right?
Yes.
Yes. Can you use it to build multiple houses as well?
Yes.
Exactly. Um, so there are some estates. Looking for an image. There are some estates that people build these days. Sorry about that. You know, they just use like one architectural diagram and build so many houses inside the estates. And all the houses, they look alike. All the houses look alike. I'm not really seeing the image I'm looking for. But then what's happening in such a scenario is they use one architectural diagram to something like this. They use one architectural diagram to build almost all the houses. So in that case, this architectural diagram is the class. You can call it the class. Now, this thing that you use that comes out of the architectural diagram is the objects. And that's what we mean by, classes are blueprints for creating objects, while objects are instances of classes, right? So classes says, this is what it will look like, this is how it will behave, this is what it would sound like, all of those things. But the object will now specify that, saying, okay, it will look like this, but this is what's, okay, so let me put it this way. Classes will say, okay, these are the properties, right? What it would look like, what it will sound like, what the height will be, something like that. Then the object will not tell you what it would actually look like. Let's just use an example. So this is a simple class in Python. You just call it a class and call it the name. Then you now use this method. We'll talk about methods later. So use this method that says the first thing will now be, so this is like a constructor, right? That you pass what you're passing in, either name or species, and then you pass it into self. Like, okay, this class, the self.name will be equals to name that is passed in, the self.species will be equals to species that is passed in, right? So instance variable of the name of the animal and species of the animal. But right now, nothing is happening because all we did is we just created a class, a blueprint, right? I could say something like age too, and then right here, I could say self.age, self.age equals age. Now be instance variable for age of the animal, right? So I can give it any property that says these are the property I want to use to describe this animal class. Now, to create an object, I have to instantiate this class. And how do I do that? This is it. Let me comment this. So I have to instantiate this and say dog. This is the object I've created. The object is a dog. The blueprint is an animal. There are different types of animals out there. But then instantiating it will now be specific to a dog. I say, okay, dog. The animal name is Buddy. The species is a dog. Then let me say the age is maybe 5 years or something, right? So I've just created an instance of that class. Now I can now print things from the class. I can print the name and also print the species. As you can see, Buddy and dog. Name of animal is Buddy, as you can see. Then I could also do print age of, let me use formats. Age of dog.name is dog.age, right? And to now use Buddy, yeah, and age 5 is, let me complete it, 5 years old. Right, so age of Buddy is the name that I gave to the animal, and age is 5. I don't know if you understand so far.
I understand.
Good. So I can also create another animal from the same animal class. I can create cats, right? And the cat is maybe 2 years old, or yeah, 2 years old. And I can print cat.name and cat.species. See, the cat name I gave is Whiskers and the species is cat, right? But all of these two things are from this blueprint animal, basically, right? So I cannot come and say, okay, let me do print cats dots. Let me say now
Color.
as tail, because the reason why I can't do this is because the blueprint does not have a functionality for as tail. See, you say that animal objects has no attributes as tail. Do you understand? So it will only be what is in the blueprints that I can do, just like the same way this house will only be what we have inside this place. I will not go and build another fence here or something that would not follow the design of the blueprints. Do you get it? Do you get it?
Yes.
All right, awesome. Okay, good. So so that's for creating like a class and an object, right? Um, but it's not just about that, basically. So we're going to go deeper into it a bit. Now,
You
before we
not
go,
explain
sorry,
you not explain the meaning of all those things.
which things?
That def underscore underscore int underscore open bracket self
Yeah,
comma.
yeah, I'll explain it.
Yes.
Let me show you where I'm going to explain it. I'm going to explain it now, yeah. magic methods. So you see some of them here. I'll explain it, don't worry.
Okay.
But quick question, can you think of a real, I've given you two scenarios now. I've given you animals and I've given you houses. Can you think of any other real world scenario where you can use a class structure? Can you think of any?
Um, like clothes. You
Close?
can have a brand, color,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
type.
Exactly. So clothes, yes. You probably want to do an e-commerce shop where you're selling clothes, right? You can have a class for clothes and have all the properties, like you said, brand, color, type, um, gender, what kind of, is it male clothes or female clothes, all those kind of things. So that's a real world scenario. Very good. Now, so after talking about classes and objects, we want to talk about attributes and methods. Attributes are variables that belong to the class, while methods are functions that belong to the class. Attributes are variables that belong to the class, while methods are functions that belong to the class. You know, we talked about functions in our previous class, right? So some classes can have their own functions on their own methods, right? But variables or attributes are just these variables, as you can see. Let me uncomment this, right? So create a class of animal. It has these variables, self.name, self.species. These are attributes, right? While now it has a variable called make sound, and we're passing the class into that method and also passing the sounds that we want to make. So now use that to print self.name, which is this variable, says the sounds that we're passing in. Let's show you an example so that you understand very clearly, right? So if I create a dog animal, I name it body and dog, and then if I create a cat animal, I name it whiskers and cats. I can now use this method, this variable or this function, sorry, this function or this method that that is inside this class, right? And you can see that before using the method, I have to call the object itself. Normally, when we in our last class when we were creating methods, so let me just create a quick method. Def what will I call it now? Add numbers, right? And I'm going to collect two arguments. It's going to be A and B. And then I'm going to print A plus B, print A plus B, basically, right? Now, to use this function, all I need to do is add number, pass A and B, and then it should give us 10. Can you see? Give us 10. So all I needed to do was add the number. Sorry, just call add number. But in methods that are inside functions, sorry, inside classes or objects, I have to call the objects first before I call the method, right? And that's why you see that body says wolf, because I called the method make sound and I passed in the sound wolf. The sound comes in here and comes into the print action here. Then the variable, the attributes, is passed in through self. Self means the present class, the present class that you're in, right? Myself, basically, something like that, right? And says self dot this attribute, the name, and it says body says wolf. Then if I do the same thing for cats, cat dot make sound, whiskers says meow. I don't know if you understand.
No.
Okay, let's go over it again. Let's take it one at a time. Attributes. Attributes are variables. variables. So this is a variable. Self.name is a variable. Self.species is a variable. This self is passed into this constructor to say that this animal, myself, like the animal's name and the animal species, or if this was clothes now, the clothes brand or the clothes color or the clothes whatever, right? That's what this self means. It's like the self of the class. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Good. So that means that the this name or any other thing that I pass in here, let's use clothes for example. Def, sorry, not def. Class, clothes, and then I'm going to say def init, init, and the first thing I'll pass in is self, which means that clothes, the clothes itself. Then I can now say brand, I can say color, I can say gender, I can say size, right? Then inside of this place, I can now say self dot gender, gender equals to gender. No, yeah, gender, but let me start from brand actually. Self dot brand, brand equals brand, self dot color equals color, self dot gender equals gender, then self the size equals size, right? So everything here, they are attributes because they are variables inside the class. Now I can now use this guy. So let me remove all of this so that all of this animal. Let's use clothes that you already know. I can now use this guy to say uh, 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 what's the name I'm going to use now? Clothes. Okay, let me just say Gucci. Gucci equals close. Then I'm going to pass the brand in. The brand is Gucci. I'm going to pass color. Color is green. I'm going to pass gender. Gender is male. I'm going to pass size. Size is large, right? Uh, so I'm going to pass another one. What is brands? What are their names now? Mm,
Dio.
yeah, dear, that's one. Dear goes to clothes. Brand is dear. Color is yellow. Uh, Gender is female. This is small, right? So basically, I've created two objects, right, in these clothes that we created. Two objects, and these are the objects. But then I'm also passing values into the variables or the attributes that are inside the object because self the brand is an attribute. Attributes inside the objects. Do you get it?
Yes.
All right. So now that's attributes. Now talking about methods, this object can also have a method called let me call it is available, right? I'll pass in self, which means the particular object. Exactly. So I'll pass in the particular um, class, which is the clothes class. So everything inside this attribute, I'm passing it inside here. Then I'm also passing a size, basically. Now, this is what I'll do. Print Gucci dot is available, and I'm going to Gucci, there's large available, right? So I'm going to print this, and you see that it's available with true, because large is available. But if I say, let me pass in small, it will say false, because small is not available in Gucci. But if I change this to dear, to now be true, because small is available in dear. Do you understand?
Yes.
So these are methods inside a class or objects, right? They are not methods outside, and that's why you have to call them with their objects, right? To say that I'm calling the object inside this closed class. I'm calling the method inside this closed dear objects inside this closed class, basically. Do you get it?
Yes.
All right, awesome. So that's attributes and objects. Now, so there's instance attributes. So there are two types of attributes, instance attributes and class attributes. But give so we're going to be talking about instance attributes and class attributes. Hold on. All right, great. Instance attributes and class attributes. Do you remember what attributes are? Can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right. Do you remember what attributes are?
No.
We just talk about attributes right now.
Attributes are um like attributes are um like wait though. Attributes,
Yeah.
they are I don't know how to put it, but they are for okay. Attributes are like properties of classes or objects. Yeah, they're like properties of classes or objects.
Yeah, they are variables. See where it's written here. Can you see my screen?
Yes,
Yeah, so do you see where it's written? Attributes are variables.
that belong to the class. Methods are functions that belong to the class.
Exactly. So do you know what attributes are now?
They are variables that belong to the class.
So, so can you tell me what an attribute is that you can see on the board?
Um, is it from
Um,
the clothes class?
yeah, tell me what an attribute is there. I can see there.
Brand, color, gender, size.
Exactly. Exactly. So what we're talking about now is that there are two types of attributes. There's class attributes and instance attributes. Hold on. Okay, yeah. There are two types of attributes, class attributes and instance attributes. Instance attributes are unique to each instance of the class, while class attributes are shared among all instances of the class. Do you understand that? I'm not sure you understand that. So, but if you don't understand that, let me explain.
I don't understand.
Oh, okay, good. So when you talk about instance attributes, you're talking about you know what classes are? Classes are the blueprints, right?
Yes.
Good. So is this a class or an object? Now, is this a class or an object?
Wait, I don't understand your question.
Is this report a class or an object? And this report one, is it a class or an object?
Is I think they are both. No, the report is a class, but the report one is an object.
Exactly. Very good, right? So this is a blueprint, and this is the instance of the class. Now, so when you talk about instance attributes and class attributes, um, this is I want you to remember it in such a way that how do I put it now? Um, the class attribute is for the class, while the instance attribute is for the instance. So the class attribute is for the class, the instance attribute is for the objects. Do you understand that now?
No, I still don't understand.
This is a class, right?
Yes.
And this is an object, right?
Yes.
Do you know what objects are?
Objects are um like oh like like
Let me put it this
objects.
way. Let me help you now. Objects are instance of a class. Instance, that means
Yes, that's the word.
the actual representation of that class, right? So the class is a blueprint. Remember our example we used earlier on. Let me bring that example in. The class is a blueprint, right? While the object is the instance of that class, the actual object that is created from that class. Do you understand this?
Yes, I
Good.
understand.
So now when we talk about instance of the class, we're talking about the objects. Don't forget that. It says create instances of the report class. So when we talk about the instance of a class, we're talking about the objects. Do you get that?
Yes.
Awesome. So now basically, when we're now talking about instance attributes and class attributes, we're talking about instance attributes are the attributes for the instance of the class. So that means the attributes are only unique to a class. So these attributes, report one, when I print reports one dot title, it's going to print the attribute for report one. Let's show you. Print report one dot title. It's going to print the attribute for hold on. I have to comment out some of these things. Let's see. So it's going to print the attribute for report one. Then report two, going to print the attribute for report two, right? But if I do report two dot report count, it's showing you how many, two, right?
Yes.
What if I do report one dot report count? It's going to show you the same two. But if I create another report again, it's going to show you 3
Yes.
equals 3 equals reports, and image weekly reports, and this, let's see if you can report, you report 4 equals reports. Good. So now let's see how many is going to print. It's going to print 4. If I say reports 3 dot report count, it's still going to print 4. So the reason is because the class attributes are shared amongst all the reports, all the instance of the object. So this is a class attribute. You see that it's outside the definition of the constructor, as you can see. It's outside the definition of the constructor. But then this is what is adding to it. What is happening is when I started when I created the report, the class reports, I said it should be 0. But then for every report that is created, add 1 to a report count. And that's why you see that there's 1 report, 2 reports, 3 reports, 4 reports, and that's why you're seeing 4 reports here. But even if I say report 1, the report count, it's still going to give us 4 reports because it's seeing all the reports that was created, because the attributes here is a class attribute. I don't know if you get it now.
Yes, I understand now.
Very good. So that is the difference between class attributes and class variables and instance variables, or class attributes and instance attributes. Now, question I'm going to ask you is, hold on. When would you use a class attribute versus an instance attribute? I don't want you to see the example or the answer. When would you use a class attribute versus an instance attribute? You understand the question?
Yes. Okay, so I think you use an instant attribute when you don't want, like 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 when you don't want to have the same type of value, like it's a value that can change at any time, so you don't want to keep a constant value, I think. I'm not sure
That's
though.
okay. No, okay. So, you use, okay. Let me just explain now. Instance attributes are unique to the instance. Class attributes are for all instances under the class. Do you understand that?
No.
Instance attributes. Okay, so let's use our example of house and example of architectural diagram. So, example of house, right? You build 5 houses out of an architectural diagram. Now, the TV in each of the houses are different types of TV. In house 1, you have LG. House 2, you have Samsung. House 3, you have um, a different type, Sharp, basically, right? Those are instance attributes. They are unique to each object. But then, a class attribute could be that you say it in the architectural diagram that the kitchen tap must be from a particular provider. So that one, all the houses must use that same kitchen tap, or that all the houses must have a library. So that means all the houses must use that library. I don't know if you get it.
Yes, I understand.
So do you have any other example that you can think of?
Like all houses must use the same type of paint on the wall.
Let's leave houses. Think of something else.
Okay.
Any other thing that you can think of?
Like for that cloth example,
Okay.
then like all the clothes must be made with silk or something like that.
Okay, so that's fine. So at least you have an idea that okay, class attributes means that you have to all the instance of the objects recognizes that what that attribute is saying covers all of them, right?
Yes.
Are you sure? You have any questions?
Yes. No.
Okay, good. All right, good. So there's a method that we created here. Now, the only thing we pass is the class, and then we pass the title and the content. So that means when we print that it will print the title and the content. So title, monthly reports, contents. This is the content of the monthly reports, right? Like that. And the same thing for the annual reports. Then so that's just it. So since you say no questions, please comment it out and I'll move to the next topic. But before I move to the next topic, I want you to just take a brief 5 minutes to create. I'll pause the recording. Take a brief 5 minutes to create your own class. Create a class variable and an instance variable and a method inside your class on your code. Then run, print the result of those variables, basically. Print those variables to your console. So let's see if you can remember how to do it. Welcome.
This meeting is being recorded.
All right, so now we want to talk about inheritance and polymorphism. Remember when we talked about OOP? OOP means object-oriented programming. Awesome. It's a programming paradigm that uses objects to design software. It allows for creation of reusable code and the modeling of real-world entities, which is what we've been doing since. Now, there are different aspects. of OOP. They include encapsulation, inheritance, polymorphism, abstraction, right? Now, when you talk about encapsulation, um, you're talking about um, encapsulating or storing everything that you want to use about an object inside a class, right? Let me see the best way that I can explain it for you. All right, good. The bundling of data and methods that operate on that object within a single unit, that's a class, and it restricts direct access to some components and prevents the accidental modification of data. That's what encapsulation is, and that's what we've been doing since. So when you create a class and you then create the attributes, you are encapsulating those information in that class. But then when you talk about inheritance, which is what we're talking about now, we're talking about, are you following?
Yes.
Okay, can you mute your mic because sounds are coming from there? Okay, good. So when you're talking about inheritance, you know what inheritance is in the real world? You are inheriting something from someone. It's almost the same thing in programming, right? Just that inheritance in the real world, once you inherit it, it's yours alone. But then in programming, it's not yours alone. A subclass can inherit a parent class, and then another subclass can also inherit that parent class. So inheritance allows classes to inherit attributes and methods from another class. And this is how it works. So when I create an animal class, this is what we've been doing since. These are the properties or the variables or the attributes. Then these are methods of the class, right? Now, I want to create another subclass that would inherit from the parent class. So I created a dog class. You know, previously we were creating dog objects and cats objects. But now, let's say I want a situation where I want to even have different dog objects. So I'll create a dog class, and the class would inherit from the animal class. So I'm passing the animal class into it. That shows that the class is inheriting from the animal class. Now you can see that I, I'm calling this make sound object, which is the object that is inside the parent class. And I said pass, which means it's a null operation. When it is executed, nothing happens, right? It is useful as a placeholder when statement is required syntactically, but no code needs to be executed, right? So what that means is if I want to call this animal now, if I say goats equals animal, and I say Billy goats, and I now say something like goats dot make sound, right? Nothing will happen here in this goats dot make sound. Let me show you how to do this. Nothing will happen there. As you can see, there's no sound because it's just a placeholder, right? But it's useful when you want to use an inherited class to call it. So like this this dog and cat class, let me open them now. If I can now instantiate the object of dog and cat class, then I call make sound. You see that they will make that sound woof and meow, right? Because I called this make sound. And that's because the inherited class now did the implementation for make sound. Make sound was here, but nothing was inside, but the inherit class now did the implementation. Yeah. Right. So it override the class up here. I don't know if you understand.
I understand.
Right. Good. So this is the parent class, animal. These are subclasses, dog and cat. They are subclasses. And instances of this dog and cat can now inherit methods as well as, you can see that this dog now does not have name and species, right? It's not here inside, but because it inherits from animal, I can also pass the name and the species into the dog. So it inherited the attributes as well as the properties and methods of the parent class. That's what inheritance is. Just once you pass it into the class, it inherits the parent class. Any question?
No.
Okay. Now, polymorphism is the next one. We talked on encapsulation, talked on inheritance. Polymorphism is the next one. It says polymorphism allows different classes to be treated as instances of the same class through a common interface. Polymorphism allows different classes to be treated as instances of the same class through a common interface. So let's see how we can describe polymorphism here. So I just remove this. Let's look at the definition again. Allows different classes. So we have this class, dog and cats. There are two different classes. To be treated as instances of the same class through a common interface. So they are treated as instances of the same class, which is this animal, right? The animal is a common interface. So this type, dog and cat, let's even do an example. Print type of dog and type of cats. Okay, so it's showing as dog and cats. Okay. What I wanted to get is to show you how they are treated as the same parent class animal, which is this animal up here. But then you can see that the mate sound, we to call the mate sound method of each animal, and display info will call the display info method of each animal. So let's just run it here and see. So mate sound, coming hold on. Yeah. So mate sound says body says woof. Now display info body species dog, right? As you can see, this dog and this cat, they don't have display info in them. But the display info is in the parent class, right? So, and then it passes the self, which will give you the name and the species. And that's why it's here, body and dog. Because this dog here and this cat, they've inherited display info, even though you cannot see it. And then they also collected the name and the species of the individual class, thereby treating them as the same or treating them as same class, even though they are different classes. I don't know if you understand.
Yes, I think I understand.
Yeah, so polymorphism is just saying that, oh, this stuff, they are different classes, but they are acting like the same, sort of. That's just what it's saying. All right. Mm. We're finally now talking on magic methods, which is what we wanted to talk of earlier on. The magic methods are special methods that start and ends with double underscores. As you can see, double underscore, double underscore, double underscore. double underscores. They allow you to define the behavior of built-in operations for your objects, such as addition, subtraction, and string representation. So there are special methods and they allow you to find the behavior. So you see this string representation, you pass the self, which is report in this case, add, you pass self and then order, what you want to add to the contents. Then length tells you the length of the content, so to speak. So we just created this class and let's see all the different methods. So we created now the report class as title and content. So where did I stop? Can't remember. So anyways, I'll just say so this is like a string magic methods, and what it does is gives you like a report, the title and the content. This add, what it does is it collects something else and adds it to the content. Say self-title and other title, self-content and other content, right? Now this length just gives you the length of the content. So let's show you how it works. So now this is title and this is the content of the object. Now I can just print this, report one, and it gives us the reports. Hold on. Let me comment out all of this. Gives us the reports, the monthly reports, and the contents. Now, so when I printed this, it gave this guy here, this reports, the title, new line, this is new line, content, the contents, right? So this is a magic method. So it says the string format of the class, right? So once I printed this, it gave you that content. Now let me show you something. Let me remove it. And you see what will happen. Can you see? Because it's a magic method, it's already defined. What it does is just prints whatever you're returning, so to speak. And it should work fine. Right? So I can return something else. I can just say return the title and don't return the content and it will work fine. That's for prints. Now this add, what the add does is it collects come in order. It collects more reports and adds it to this report. So you see that this order is another like another report, so to speak. And you can see that it has title and content, so to speak, right? So if I say, oh, let me create one more report. So I want to add more. This will be weekly reports. Should I do weekly reports? Yeah, weekly reports. Okay, good. Now if I add this, it adds this other report to the whole combined report. Now, if I print combined reports, it's going to use this string, this thing to print all of the reports, so to speak. Let's see. So let me remove print report one and report two. So I will see only the combined reports. So you see combined reports gives us reports, monthly reports, and annual reports, and weekly reports. Content, this is the content for monthly reports. This is the content for annual reports. This is the content for weekly reports, right? So gives us new line for all of the content, as you can see. So that's what this add magic method does. Now this length magic method, what it does is checks the length of all the reports. So if I say, let me print the length of these reports, report 1, report 2, and also print for report 3 as well, because I just created report 3, length of report 3. It will give us the length of all the reports. See, so length of, let me remove the combined reports. Oh no, let me leave the combined reports because I need it. Yeah. So length of report 1 is 42, length of report 2 is 41, length of report 3 is 41. So now, what if I want to get the length of the combined reports? That should give us 42, 41, 41 is what? 124. That's what it's supposed to give us, but that's not what it will give us. And the reason for that is because of the new line. We added new lines. So it will give us maybe, how many new lines do we have now? We have one new line for one more report, two new line for two more reports. So that should give us 146 or 147, let's see. Sorry, 126 or 127. So give us 126 because of the new line. And let me explain again. And the reason for explaining, while I'm explaining, let me also show you what I mean. So let's play this. Good. So if we count all of these characters, yeah, from monthly reports up to down there, you get 126 normally. But then because of the new line, that is, it jumps down from year to year. That's also one character. Jumps down from year to year. That's another character. And that's why we have 126 instead of 124. If I remove the new lines now, let me just do plus like this. You see that it will be 124. As you can see, 124. But because of the new lines that we added those characters for the two and gets 126. So that's basically all these things about magic object. This is for length. This is to add other objects to this object. This is for string, just to print the strings for maybe debugging purposes. Then this is like the initial method that is called when we create this object. The first method, and when we pass the title, it uses it to add to the attributes. Do you understand?
Yes.
All right, good. So that's the lot we can do today. I'll drop this code. Let me drop it and share it with you so that you can use it to do research. And I'll also drop your assessment in the in the in Google Classroom. Hold on.
Sir,
Yeah.
should I be doing the assignments on Google Classroom or the one in that book here?
Do the one on Google Classroom. I'll be using the Google Classroom from now on.
Okay.
Yeah, do the one on Google Classroom. Right, so thank you. I'm sharing this to you now. All right, I just shared it with you now on your WhatsApp. So you can use that to